Morning, church. Today's Bible reading is from the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes 2:24 to 25. There is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment? The next passage is from Ecclesiastes 5:18 to 20. Behold, what I have seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun, the few days of his life that God has given him. For this is his lot. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them and to accept his lot and rejoice in his toil. This is the gift of God, for he will not much remember the days of his life, because God keeps him occupied with joy in his heart. This is the word of the Lord. Blessed be to God.
Greetings. Now today, we're going to talk about enjoyment. Now God's not a killjoy, all right? He gave us work, but he also gives us rest. But not only does he want us to rest, he wants us to have enjoyment as well. And many people who don't know God, all right, many people who don't know God well enough, they think that God is always this angry, this vengeful, this, always commanding people around kind of a God. Or they think God is maybe like a cat, right, sneaking up on people and then jumping on them if they were to break a command. But that couldn't be further from the truth. So today we're going to see that God is a good God, that God is a loving and compassionate God, and he wants us to rest, he wants us to enjoy. And so if this is new to you, I hope the text today will set you free, because God's truth always sets us free. Ecclesiastes 2:24-25, there is nothing better for a man than to eat and drink and tell himself that his labor is good. This also I have seen that it is from the hand of God, for who can eat and who can have enjoyment without him? Do you know how to enjoy? Do you know how to enjoy? Now, Hans Christian Andersen supposedly said, "Enjoy life, there's plenty of time to be dead." Now, some of us here, and it's true, some people, they do not know how to enjoy. Maybe they don't want to enjoy. Maybe they intentionally limit their enjoyment. And then, of course, there are people who intentionally enjoy way too much to the damage of their souls, and they don't know when to stop. And then, of course, there are those that get jealous or get resentful when they see others enjoying, or else enjoying much more than them. And I'm sure we know some others as well who tend to compartmentalize their enjoyment. They plan their enjoyment that by a certain age or a certain time, then only they will enjoy, or else unless they have certain resources, or else unless they are with certain people, then only is the time to enjoy. But don't you see that if life itself doesn't necessarily travel in very simple, very straight lines, then for sure life's enjoyment might also not happen as planned, right? The enjoyment that you pursue and indulge in over and over again might leave you emotionally emptier than before, right? The enjoyment that you postpone to a later date or intentionally plan to happen on a suitable day, a suitable place, or a suitable time, that may not come, right? The people that you're jealous of who seem to be enjoying so much more than you, and you allow them to rob you of whatever little enjoyment that you have. And the enjoyment that you deny yourself may mean that you missed out on so much more things in life things that are supposed to make you more wholesome and more complete as a person. And you miss that big time. So what then shall we do? What can we do? What is the value of true, satisfying enjoyment? Now today our text tells us, enjoy life's good, evaluate life's gifts, and exercise good sense or wisdom. We are to enjoy life's good, evaluate life's gifts, and exercise good sense. Now, if you try to read Ecclesiastes and found it to be quite a super depressing book, and that's quite a natural response because the writer of Ecclesiastes gives us a very honest survey of human life on earth. Ecclesiastes 1, verses 2 to 3. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. All is vanity. What does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? All things are full of weariness. Man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear with hearing. I, the preacher, applied my heart to seek and to search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. And some versions use sore travail or grievous task or burdensome task. And I've seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and is striving after the wind. So life is hard. Life is constant striving for gain, for satisfaction. But what real gains are there in life? See, life is not only hard and burdensome and full of strife, but life also has undesirable twists and turns as well. Ecclesiastes 6, 1 to 2. There is an evil that I see under the sun, and it lies heavy on mankind. Okay, what he sees is a man to whom God gives wealth and possessions and honor so that he lacks nothing in all that he desires, and yet God does not give him the power to enjoy them, but a stranger were to enjoy them. And this is vanity. This is a grievous evil. So it happens, right? Whatever you have, whatever that you worked hard for, all those hours that you put in, neglecting your health, neglecting your families, whatever that you've tried to save and keep and pile up so as to maybe enjoy at a later date, well, guess what? You don't get to enjoy them. You don't get to enjoy the harvest, right? Your harvest ends up in someone else's hands. You don't get to enjoy and eat and drink of the labor of your fruits, the fruits of your labor. And then as you read the book of Ecclesiastes, as if life is not hard enough or burdensome enough, as if the twists and turns are not enough, are not cruel enough, you will find that life under the sun isn't black and white only. Okay, if you think that the good always will get good in return, and the evil gets evil in return, think again. All right, here are verses that defy this. In my vain life, I have seen everything. There is a righteous man who perishes in his righteousness, and there is a wicked man who prolongs his life in evil doing. Quite the opposite, isn't it? Again, I saw that under the sun, the race is not to the swift, meaning those who are swift may not always win the race, nor the battle to the strong. Even the strong can lose a battle. Nor bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge, but time and chance happen to them all. In other words, I think there's this Hokkien phrase that says there's no 保价, right? You know what I mean? So there's no guarantee that you will get what you have, something like that. For man does not know his time, like fish that are taken in an evil net, and like birds that are caught in a snare, so the children of man are snared at an evil time when it suddenly falls upon them. So you never know when things might be taken away from you. You never know that even though you may have the capacities for certain things, the harvest, the results may not be yours to reap. So bad things happen to good people, and good things happen to evil people. And worst of all, you never know what's going to happen in life. So it's really depressing. So how are we supposed to enjoy, right? But now that you've seen how life under the sun is, I think we can all agree with the writer of Ecclesiastes that precisely because of these brutal facts of life, that therefore we are to enjoy life's good. That therefore we are to evaluate life's gifts and exercise good sense. Ecclesiastes 2:24 again, there is nothing better for a man than to eat and drink and tell himself that his labor is good. And this I have seen that it is from the hand of God, for who can eat and who can have enjoyment without him? See, we are to enjoy life's good. We are to enjoy when the opportunity presents itself for us to eat, to drink, to chill in the midst of repetitive toil, in the midst of life's difficult works and challenges, in the midst of life's misery, in the midst of life's futility. So what are your moments of enjoyment? In the midst of life's uncertainties and frustrations, where do opportunities for enjoyment present yourselves in your life? Were you so busy toiling away that you failed to notice them? Did you fail to notice that even the simplest of enjoyment, just to eat, to drink, and to chill, were given to you? You see, for the writer of Ecclesiastes to arrive at this conclusion, he made comprehensive observations of people, of nature, of things around him. So if you were to read Ecclesiastes, if you can read the whole book in one sitting, that would be best. All right, and you see that the writer of Ecclesiastes, he did many things to see how life plays out. So he experimented with work, he experimented with pleasures, and he experimented with excessive possessions and all things that money could buy and that wealth could buy. He filled his life with possessions. He filled himself with much learning and wisdom. All right, he observed the lives of the rich and the poor, the lives of the wise and the foolish, and the lives of the good and the evil. And so chapter 2 verse 10 says, he did not deny himself anything, meaning he went all the way. The sky's the limit. Right? He went all the way to do his observations, to do his experimentations. And what was his conclusion in chapter 2, verse 11? He says, there is no profit. There is only frustration because it is a striving after the wind, and it is vanity. But not just in chapter 2, verse 11, but a total of 6 vanity declarations were made in chapter 2. So my friends, the absolute vanity and the absolute misery of life brought him back to declare that there is nothing better than the simple enjoyment of just chilling over a meal. So whether it's the servant in the kitchen, or whether it's the farmer in the field, or whether it's the merchant in his shop, or whether it's the governor in his mansion, everybody must stop to eat, to drink, when it's time to do so. And this simple enjoyment punctuates the rhythm of our lives. And since the rhythm of our lives is cyclical, right? If you read Ecclesiastes chapters 1 and 2, the rhythm of life is cyclical, is repetitive. Since the rhythm of life is vain, is unprofitable, is unpredictable, and brings grief to us, the very humble act of sitting down at table is what is rightly pleasurable compared to worldly riches, compared to worldly pleasures, compared to worldly gains. Now, this is not to say that possessions and wealth and material gains and all that don't count for anything. They do bring pleasure as well. As the writer says, if you get to enjoy them, it is by the hand of God, right? But he had already shown that even that can be vanity, even that can be grievous, even that can be futile in the rhythms of life. But there's more. We are to enjoy life's good in relation to being joyful about our labor, meaning our work and our toil in the Lord. All right, we are to enjoy life's good, but it doesn't stop there. It is done in relation to being joyful in our labor in the Lord. All right, Ecclesiastes 2, again, he says, nothing better than to eat and drink and tell himself that his labor is good. This I have seen, it is from the hand of God, for who can eat and have enjoyment without him? And this is again in Ecclesiastes 3 as well. I perceive that there is nothing better for them than to be joyful and to do good as long as they live. Also that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in all his toil. This is God's gift to man. And then Ecclesiastes 5, which is our passage today as well. Behold, what I've seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil which one toils under the sun the few days of his life that God has given him, for this is his lot. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them and to accept his lot and receive and rejoice in his toil, this is the gift of God. For he will not much remember the days of his life because God keeps him occupied with joy in his heart. Meaning to say that, you take pleasure, you take enjoyment and joy in the simple things of life, and you enjoy your toil, not literally enjoy, we'll talk about that in a while, but you find delight, or you don't begrudge the toil that you have. And all this simple joy, God will keep you occupied with such joys, such that you will forget the misery of the rhythms of life, all right? So we can see that for sure, all work is toil, right? That's what sin got us into way back in Genesis. All work under the sun is toil. Now for sure, toil is repetitive from generation to generation. There is nothing new, right? No generation is spared. And then for sure, all toil under the sun is to strive for gain, isn't it? And for sure, all gain, if there are any gain, is to strive for more gain. But eventually, none of these gains can follow you to your grave. None of these gains can follow you to your grave. So we are all headed this way, whether we like it or not. The only way to rise above this, is to factor God into the equation of life under the sun. Are you a student? What are you toiling for? Are you a homemaker? What are you toiling for? Are you a marketplace worker? What are you toiling for? Are you self-employed? What are you toiling for? Even if you're a retiree, what are you toiling for? As a parent, what are you toiling for? As a spouse, what are you toiling for? As a young adult, what are you toiling for? As a single adult, what are you toiling for? Now, if you factor God into the rhythms of your life, your toil will take on a different perspective. If you factor God into the rhythms of your life, your toil takes on a different perspective. Life's good can be as simple as sitting at table, because it is an outpouring of gratitude and satisfaction of toil done in the Lord. The simple pleasures are an outpouring of gratitude. and satisfaction of toil that are done in the Lord. Now, for sure, there's nothing pleasurable in burdensome toil, all right? There's nothing enjoyable in difficult and painful toil. We all get that in our lives in one point or another. But such toil that is done in the Lord, for the Lord, and done with the knowledge of the Lord changes everything. Such toil commits all outcomes to the Lord. Such toil cannot make or break us without the Lord's sovereign power. Such toil is endured and faithfully performed, standing on the strength of the Lord. Such toil is good and valuable in the eyes of the Lord, even if it is despicable in the eyes of men. Such toil has transformational power to humble us, and yet it can commend us to God at the same time. So with God in the equation, the most painful toil, even if in all honesty we just cannot rejoice in it, such toil can become tolerable because the focus is lifted from the self, and the focus is now about meeting God right in the pain of that toil. You follow what I'm saying, right? So all the more then, with God in the equation, sitting at table in a quiet environment, chilling with a book by the window, journaling your thoughts and having a cup of coffee or tea, enjoying the fragrance of freshly laundered clothes, taking in the glorious smell of the rain or the smell of cut grass, or even eating free croissants which you queued for 4 hours. With God in the equation, simplicity becomes appreciated as absolutely enjoyable and absolutely pleasurable because of the toils that were done in the Lord, for the Lord, and in the knowledge of the Lord. We enjoy the simplicity of things because they are the outpouring of our gratitude and satisfaction of toil done in the Lord. We see His hand, we see His grace, we see His help, and we see His presence. So God ordained the toil for you. It is God ordained. God's hand is in it. Both toil and table are all God's gifts to us under the sun. But as long as you stay under the sun, as long as you don't rise above it to see God, to acknowledge God, you will toil endlessly, you will toil painfully, you will toil grudgingly for your table, and you will never be satisfied with your table. Because either it will be empty, right, because you may not get to enjoy it, or if it's filled, you will want to toil harder, you want to toil longer, you will want to toil even much, much more so that you can keep filling it and buy larger and larger tables, isn't it? You will not be satisfied. Or worse, you might even curse God if your table is removed despite having invested all your life into your table, despite having slaved hard for your table. And such is the vanity of life under the sun if the Lord is not in it. So we are to enjoy life's good, evaluate life's gifts, and exercise good sense. And we have to get this right. Because if we get this right, we get life right. And what this means to exercise good sense is to have wisdom. We must exercise good and sound wisdom. See, the writer of Ecclesiastes was disappointed with wisdom if you read the earlier chapters. But what he was disappointed about wisdom was worldly wisdom or human wisdom. Right, the wisdom of men and culture, human wisdom. He says, I said in my heart, I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who were over Jerusalem before me, and my heart has had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I applied my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this is also but a striving after the wind. For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. And I always quote this, whenever teachers tell you to study harder, right? Wisdom is a delightful possession. It is the noblest of human possessions. See, but then the writer of Ecclesiastes, when he begins to compare with the wise and the foolish, he concludes that there is no difference between these two at death. Isn't it? It's in the Bible. He says, for of the wise as of the fool, there is no enduring remembrance, seeing that in the days to come, all will have been long forgotten. How the wise dies just like the fool. Now, in fact, in chapter 3, he even concludes that there's no difference between humans and animals because all die, everything gets forgotten. And we have to understand why the writer of Ecclesiastes talks so much about wisdom, because wisdom is important. The tradition of wisdom in the Israelite culture cannot be overemphasized. See, to Israelite culture, the tradition of wisdom is that wisdom is a quality that enables a person to live well, both singularly as well as corporately. All right? Wisdom is a quality that enables a person to govern his affairs and his household well. And above all, wisdom is a quality that enables one to be spiritually discerning so as to live a sanctified and righteous life. And wisdom is the expression of being found in right relationship with God, because true wisdom comes from the fear of God. So only the wisdom of God can lift you up above the vanities of life under the sun, can lift you up above the worldly wisdom of men and culture. We saw that death is the final equalizer. It doesn't matter whether you're wise or foolish or delusional. Death is the final equalizer. But only the wisdom of God can lift you up above things that are under the sun. So do you toil to pursue worldly wisdom and worldly knowledge? I know friends who toil for worldly wisdom and worldly knowledge. I have a friend, this guy, he's already past 35 years old, and yet his pursuit of degrees have not stopped. After 2 degrees, he kept taking courses after courses, and there is no necessity in acquiring more. It was more of a case like he just doesn't know what he wants to do. And so as long as he stays in student mode, he can continue to enjoy life and then just take his time to pick and choose what courses that he wants. So it's just dragging time on to pursue knowledge and just plan what he wants to do. Another couple friend of mine has 2 kids, all right, and they would deposit their kids at their grand's place for the weekday. And so they only get to see their kids on the weekends. And then when it's Monday, they go back to their own house, and the kids are at their grand's place. And for the entire week, they do not see their children. For what? So that they could pursue their 2nd and 3rd degrees, so that they can earn more and enjoy the kind of high life that they wanted. And I have other friends as well who had a lot going in life to fill themselves with work and academic excellence, so as to bring them good businesses, pleasures, and possessions. And those friends of mine, when they hit a roadblock, when they went bankrupt, one became bitter with God, and the other was in debt. He had to declare bankruptcy, and his family eventually broke down. And so they had to begin all over again. See, the worldly wisdom of men and culture is vain, is useless, as what the writer of Ecclesiastes reminds us. It's vain, it's useless, because death is the final equalizer. But only the wisdom of God can lift you up above the vanities of life under the sun. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord brings sound wisdom. So we must gain and we must exercise sound wisdom. Because only sound wisdom in the Lord prevails. To know God, to reverently fear God, is to have sound wisdom. And that will make you seek things that are eternal, to wait patiently for eternal things to come. When we can enjoy life's good, when we can rightly evaluate life's gifts, when we can exercise good sense in the Lord, then the vanities of life under the sun should not appeal to us, would not appeal to us. The vanities of life under the sun should not trouble our souls or bring anxiety or unrest or bitterness to us or jealousies to us. But we have to address the mysterious word vanity. What is vanity? Interesting, right? Many English translations use the word vanity, King James, ESV, NASB. The NIV, NLT uses meaningless. The Mandarin version uses 虚空. Translations that are in the contemporary English, they use pointless or useless, which just means that we should exclude these translations, all right? Now, the Hebrew word is havel, and it carries the sense of vapor or breath. And so, like the quality of vapor, of breath, the many uses of havel in various parts of Ecclesiastes generally convey the sense of transience, insubstantiality, brevity, fleetingness, impermanence, futility. This also means that the translation which we find in the NIV that says meaningless is a little bit quite off the mark. Because things can be meaningful even if they are temporal, right? Some things that may be short-lived, but they can be meaningful. So what is the scope of things that the writer claims is fleeting, is futile, is transient? Well, basically, everything that the writer described, all the way starting from chapter 1 and then chapters 2, the entire book, everything is futile. Everything that humans do under the sun is only a chasing of the wind. The wind is brief and fleeting, and all the efforts of humanity are fleeting, insubstantial, transient, impermanent. Not only that, not only is it fleeting, they are toil, right? You're toiling for things that are impermanent. We cannot take what we have built when we die. They are left to the generations that come, if it survives to the next generation. So this is how vain life under the sun is. There's nothing permanent, nothing of lasting value, nothing to bring with us to the grave, nothing to be remembered for, nothing to glory in, nothing to be jealous about. Which is why the solution is therefore to enjoy life's good, to rightly evaluate life's gifts, and to exercise good wisdom. Let me end with this story. Now, in my previous office, there was a gentleman facing a medical condition. So it's gotten terminal, he won't have long to live. And the second time that I visited him was with another colleague of mine. And not only did we board the wrong bus, because my colleague gave me the wrong number, we had to also return to the bus terminal to wait for the correct bus. Okay, so that's one thing. And then we also went to the wrong house because my colleague took me, although I went once, but I couldn't quite remember because it's all the way in Tampines and I'm not very familiar. So this colleague took us to the house of the son's house, the son of the member that we're supposed to visit. And thankfully, the son's house is just like within a couple of blocks away, so it wasn't that bad. All right, but the extra walking, the hot sun and everything gave the trip a very lousy start. But when we arrived there, within minutes of sitting down and chatting with a member and his wife regarding his medical condition, regarding his therapies, and our moods became very lively and joyful. And the hospitality that we received from him and his wife was nothing short of amazing. When I reflected on the event, it was really exactly what Ecclesiastes was talking about. Because you see, when we were there, on the one hand, all right, we had to face with life's harsh realities, right? We were talking about his medical condition, the changes to his lifestyle, and his health is not getting better. And these are all part and parcel of life under the sun. They are the rhythms of life that are fleeting for him. But then on the other hand, we come face to face with his enjoyment, despite the toil that he and his wife had to endure. You see, our time together was an opportunity, an occasion that he sees as God-given for him to enjoy, to revel in. His wife prepared good food for us and really awesome tea. But then, this whole visitation was not about us. It's about them. It was really about them. And it was very evident to me that the member and his wife was just 100% totally enjoying the food that they prepared for us. And they didn't just prepare, it's 3 p.m., okay? They didn't just prepare tea. They literally prepared a whole meal for us. Many dishes, and then even desserts and soups and everything. So we talk about the food, we talk about her cooking, and then the member showed me he has this huge showcase of all his collector's watches, right? Rolexes, Omegas, Tag Heuers, everything. So, and he was talking joyfully and energetically and joking around. And I was thinking that for them to host us, all right, there is toil involved, right? To talk about his personal struggles, about his medical condition, can be a mental toil to him. His own medical journey is an extreme toil. Preparing food for us is physical toil, and it's mental toil sometimes. Getting the house ready for visitors is toil. But when the time to enjoy comes, there was real enjoyment in all that toil. And they were able to enjoy in the midst of life's harsh realities and toil because of their faith and trust in a sovereign God. And so this is what we must do, to fix our eyes and our minds on our Creator, whose hand alone is sovereign. We must recognize who is in control of all things under the sun, not just the good, but the bad as well. And the writer concludes his argument in chapter 12, verse 13, and I prefer the KJV version for this. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. So what's our reality check? We got to fear God. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Then you will know God. Then you will rightly evaluate all things. And you can enjoy rightly. If you remember, the Westminster Shorter Catechism asks us, what is the chief end of men? And I'm sure many of us know the answer. To know God and to enjoy him forever and ever and ever and ever. So are you enjoying? Are you enjoying? Life under the sun may have its rewards for sure, but life under the sun is still vanity, it's still vapor, there's no profitability. Rise above the sun and live life above the sun. And only Jesus can take you there. He is the way, the life, the way, the truth, and the life. You will know how to live and enjoy God. And I pray that the Holy Spirit will impress upon your heart to draw you to Christ today, because Christ has given us all things, given all things freely to us, and his Spirit has set us free. So we have to draw near to him. We have to flee the vanities of life and to start enjoying God and in God. Let us pray. Whom have I in heaven but you? And there is nothing on earth that I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Amen.